Good morning, Shamanaste. Thank you for being here with
Indeed.
us. I don't have a specific question. I have many questions running around in my head, but I guess I'll leave it to you to answer whatever you think I need to hear most right now.
And we have a question for you. What we want you to answer is when you were little, did you leave those questions to your parents, to your mom or your dad, or those big people that you grew up with? Did you leave the questions? In other words, did you wait for them to tell you things before you knew what your questions were?
No, I don't think so.
And therefore, when you were little, you were inquisitive and perhaps you did ask questions and you knew exactly what questions you wanted to ask. Is that true?
Yes.
And what we want to say is that oftentimes, when people say, just tell us whatever it is that I need to hear, just say whatever it is that is important or open to discussion. And oftentimes that comes from a learned response of not even trusting the question. In other words, maybe there are too many questions to boil it into one. And that is when people get very scatterbrained, if you will, and get flustered because there are so many questions. And mm, oftentimes when you cannot put it into a succinct question of what is it that you really want? What is it that you really choose to have next in your life? Then that is when it gets somewhat confusing because the question itself has not been succinct enough to even understand when the answer comes. Do you understand?
I do.
And when the answer comes, it comes all the time, you see. Answers come all the time. It's just a matter of understanding what the question was, and so that you can put two and two together. Therefore, when you get a knowing, or you get a light bulb, or you get a nudge to say, take this job, don't take this job, or this is the right medicine that I need right now, or this is not the right medicine that I need right now. When you have those questions and those answers coming to you, in other words, the question mm, is this the best and highest good for all concerned? And we know that this one uses that all the time because you can't go wrong with that question or that knowing. And to say, I choose mm, to make decisions and to know how to move through time with ease and grace and the highest and best for all concerned. I choose to know. And when you phrase it in that way, you are taking control of the question. You are taking control of the answer, and it makes sense, you see. Because oftentimes we may speak in generalities or mm, perhaps we speak very specific, but what we want you to hear is that you do have mm, the unique ability to discern what your question is each day. And therefore, once you make the decision that that is your question, then you will hear the answer and you will get the answer that you asked. You see, when all of you get information and you get answers or you get nudges, then oftentimes you stop and you ask, is that true? Or should I really do that? Or is that something that I shouldn't do? And then those are the questions that come up from that. You see, the answer that you're getting mm, is already answered to the question that you were asking. It's just that you've been asking the wrong question. It is not whether should I or should I not. It is what is the highest and best for all concerned. So it's not an either or. Do you understand?
Maybe.
Therefore, ask your question, dear one.
Well, okay. My question is, how can I how can I better tap into this knowing and
Mm.
the nudges and the answers? Is the blockage, I guess I'm putting that there, is the reason that I don't feel like I'm getting the answer that I'm not asking the question?
In other words, mm, if you feel there is a block of thought, or there's a block of knowing, or there's a block of connection or awareness, then when you ask the question, what is my block? How can I receive information easier and know it is something that is for me, and to not doubt it? You see, that is truly what you were asking, is why do I doubt? Why do I doubt the answers that I have? Why do I doubt my ability to connect on all levels, in all dimensions, when I need to, when I choose to? What if you have been connecting? What if you have been getting the right answers, but not sure about the question, which is, what is the best and highest good for all concerned? If you look at it from that standpoint, then mm, the doubts that come up, that's also the doubt jar. You can put it in your what about jar. It's also a doubt jar of, is this real? Or am I really connecting? What am I missing? And what if you're not missing anything, dear one? What if you do have the ability and have always had that ability? It's just that many of you have very strong minds. Many of you are very serious in your thought and have the ability to discern things in a logical way. And of course, as you know, spirit is not necessarily logical. And trying to square the two of, is this spiritual expansion or is this a logical conclusion? When you start asking those questions, is this logical conclusion or a spiritual expansion? Then you start dividing yourself up into, this is linear thought and this is not. This is a knowing and this is not. You see, your knowing is linear at times, and your knowing is not linear at times. And we're not trying to make this harder for you, dear one. What we are wanting to do is to confirm with you that you do get the answers that you seek. It's just you keep changing the question, or you're not sure what that question is, and it may not be the answer that you want, you see. Many of you might get answers or get information, and it's not exactly what you want. And that is when you start doubting. Or the other side of that is, it is exactly what you want, and then you start doubting. The common denominator is you start doubting. Therefore, what if everything that you do and everything that you feel and everything that comes to you when you ask for help or answers, what if all of that is true? What if all of it works? What if there is no doubt? How would that be for you?
Well, I imagine that would be pretty smooth and pretty effortless.
And is that possible?
Sure. Yeah, I think that it is. Maybe what's happening is I'm making it harder than it is. And that's the whole thing. One of the things I keep hearing about is emotion and feelings and I guess having the knowing by how your body feels or how your emotions feel. And in some ways, I feel like I'm not as sensitive.
Hmm.
And I don't know if that's just how I am or if there's some block that I need to clear, something that happened I'm not really aware of.
We feel that in your voice, dear one. that there is a fear of that you are disconnected from your feelings, and that there is a wide gap of wanting to be able to feel things and yet afraid to feel them at the same time. And it is not necessarily, some people receive information through feelings and some through knowing. And a knowing is more coming in from, if you can imagine, we will visualize this for you. Your knowing comes from into your the top of your head. Let's say that's how your knowing comes. And a feeling comes, in other words, you feel something, it comes in through your stomach and your heart. And if you can imagine it from that aspect, we're trying to put it into a third dimensional form for you, that knowing something is coming in from above, and feeling feels it's coming at you, coming into your body from the front. And what we mean by that is sometimes there is a disconnect from the feeling part, because that feeling energy of feeling something and allowing your emotions to be your guide certainly is a strategy that many can and will do. And for many, like you, who, as we have said, has a very logical aspect to it, there has been a disconnect of feeling. In other words, the fear of feeling something comes up and sometimes can support you in not feeling. In other words, it is a strategy that you have learned to not feel because of things that have hurt so badly. And the fear of, if I feel everything, then I will be hurt again and I will have pain again. And I do not want to have that. Therefore, I will shut down my emotional centers. I will bring down my life force just a bit so that I don't have to feel everything, and will only allow things as I intentionally allow it to come in, to feel something, you see. And that is a strategy that you have learned.
Is it something I need to unlearn?
Is that a question for us, or is that a question for you? We do
It's
not mean to make it harder than it is, dear one. In other words, even asking that question, you see, there's doubt. And what we want you to know is that people get information in different ways. And if you are wanting to have more empathy, if you're wanting to have more feeling in your body, if you're wanting to be able to connect with spirit and others from a feeling place where it feels alive and vibrates in your body, then yes, you can allow that to come in. And what you are doing while you are seeking all of these ways of doing that, you are still getting information. You are still getting knowings. And if you're wanting to be able to feel everything and be okay with all of it, and not try to dissect, this is pain, I don't want that. This is fear, I don't want that. This is love, I do want that. This is joy, I want that. In other words, sometimes when feeling comes, you have to be able to embrace it all and to let go of that fear that you will be in pain. And does this make sense to you from your a beautiful logical brain?
Yes, it does.
And it is not a question of, should I allow it more? It is a question of, I choose to allow it more, a little bit day by day, if that feels most comfortable to you. But you are not lacking. You are not lacking in anything. You have that ability at all times. It is just a matter of making that choice and saying to yourself, I choose to feel. It is safe to feel. It is safe to feel. And you are getting answers all the time. And your discernment by saying, is this a knowing or is this a feeling, we are trying to put it in terms of third dimensional body. If it comes in from above into your head, or if it comes from in front of you into your gut and into your heart, then you can discern what those are, the two differences. Do you understand?
I do.
Good. And you are not doing anything wrong, dear one. You are a seeker. And as a seeker, many of you are, as you are seeking ways to connect and different ways of being and seeking answers or seeking direction or whatever it is that you are seeking, you are always being answered. It's just a matter of listening from the discernment of, is this a knowing or a feeling? And neither one is better than the other.